The life force of your bond. A power like life itself. Unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
Okay, I guess I gotta do that. I guess I gotta do that manually now. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Dyad in the Force, episode 138 in the month of From a Certain Point of View. On today's episode, we will be covering some more stories from the FACPOV of Return of the Jedi. Some stories include From a Certain Point of View, Brotherhood, then Fall Sidious. We might actually read a story here with you guys so that everyone that's tuning in doesn't have to worry about spoilers and y'all can just experience the story with us as well. Choco, what's up? You seem like you lost something.
I was looking for my book. It's around here somewhere. I ain't too worried about it.
Yeah. You're gonna need it if we're gonna read a story from it.
I mean, that's why I was looking for the book.
It's not out here for another month. I'm gonna have to dip. Now there's an idea. I'd love to hear a read through. Yeah, so we're gonna read through. I guess I could read through all of the stories that exist and see what you're interested in hearing. But yeah, like a read through basically just so that we can kind of talk about something that everyone that is tuning in can talk about instead of kind of like us assuming things. I'm assuming Naf that there's a certain desire to hear Wolf Trap by Alyssa Wong.
It's a good one.
A lot of people are wanting the Barnes and Noble edition to get that story.
Oh, that's only in that version?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's not in my early digital copy. So
I've been telling people about that story. Now I feel bad.
It's fine. I mean, like, where else are you gonna get books? I'm just kidding. Like, where else are you gonna get physical books? I mean, like, obviously you can get some secondhand books from Goodwill, but you can go to Libby. But yeah.
Is it on the audiobook? I don't know.
Especially from us, considering because like we get coded like early copies, so like it's not marked. I have to click through all of the audio files until it says the story that I want to read.
I mean,
they are in order, but like it's not labeled.
Mine are not in order, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the most recent one I listened to was 978059379489 _DAS192 _01 _004 _R1. It's an interesting title.
R and then the number is the actual chapter. The thing is, these stories don't have chapter numbers. So like I have to go through the table and be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Kenny says, hot take about the book, don't like the fact that there is a chapter called Brotherhood when there is a novel of the same name. Well, Master and Apprentice started in From a Certain Point of View, and then we had Master and Apprentice the novel. Just like we have From a Certain Point of View here, there's also a From a Certain Point of View story in the book.
But what's more important is they actually work extremely well together, though. If you've read both, which I highly recommend.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because it is. It kind of feels like they are drawing a line of like this is their relationship. Anakin and Obi-Wan were brothers. It was brotherhood for them. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan was master and apprentice. That's the distinction.
Eyes verified. Yeah, so it's not the R1 part. It's a part just before there. That's like 004.
All right. So here are the stories that we could potentially read live with you guys. Any work worth doing by Amal El Motar. I might have butchered that. Fancy Man by Phil Sostak. The Key to Remembering by Olivia Chada. Fortuna Favors the Bold by Matt Damon. I mean,
Matt Damon.
By Kwame Mbalia. Dune Sea Songs of Salt and Moonlight by Thea Guanzon. The Plan by Saladin Ahmed. Reputation by Tara Sim. Kickback by K. Arseno Rivera.
Keep reading. This is perk time for me to look for the book.
Everyone's a Critic by Sarah Glenn Marsh. Satisfaction by Kristen Baver. Shout out to Kristen Baver. It was great meeting you at Celebration. My Mouth Never Closes by Charlie Jane Anders. Kernels and Husks by Jason Fry. The Light That Falls by Akemi Dawn Bowman. From a Certain Point of View by Alex Jennings. No Contingency by Fran Wild. The Burden of Leadership by Danny Lohr. Gone to the Winner's Circle by Patricia A. Jackson. One Normal Day by Mary Kenny. Divine? Intervention by Paul Crilly. The Buy-In by Suzanne Walker. The Man Who Captured Luke Skywalker by Max Gladstone. Akbar by Jarrett J. Kruzotka. The Impossible Flight of Ash Angels by Marieka Nykamp. Ending Protocol by Hannah Witten. The Last Flight by Ali Hazelwood. 20 and Out by Lamar Giles. The Ballad of Nanta by Sarah Kuhn.
Oh.
Then Fall Sidious by Olivier Blake, although I feel like I could not do that justice. Impact by Sean Williams. Trooper Trouble by Laura Pohl. To the Last Day, or To the Last, by Dana Schwartz. The Emperor's Red Guards by Gloria Chow. Wolf Trap by Alyssa Wong. The Extra 5% by MK England. When Fire Marked the Sky by Emma Mieko Candon. The Chronicler by Danielle Page. The Veteran by Adam Lance Garcia. Brotherhood by Mike Chen. The Steadfast Soldier by Adam Christopher. And Return of the Wills by Tom Engelberger. Let's see here. I mean, Obi-Wan does say, "You are my brother, Anakin." Yeah, I know. Is the Interstellar music playing? No, this is not Interstellar music. It is just Pretzel Rocks. I guess it's their copyright-free version of Interstellar. Did you find your book?
Yes, I did. Now, so you read all the story titles. Unfortunately, the story titles don't really tell you anything about them.
That's true. You think you could tell us something about them?
Oh, that's what I was looking up. And then you asked me a question.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm still looking.
Shout out to Duel of the Ranks in the chat. How's it going? If you want to call in, feel free to do so. I'm going to leave the chat.
Yeah, call in.
I'm going to leave a link in the chat for calls. Song's popping right now, man. Where's our short story on Rick the door technician? That's coming in
someday.
from
40
a certain
years.
point. From a certain point of view, Jedi. Do you think there's possibility of us getting like from a certain point of view just in every property?
I mean, hopefully they stick with the movies first, but I think eventually we could get there. There's certain newer things that I just don't think have the same cult classic hit, where even if you haven't seen a movie in a while, they start one of these stories and you know exactly who they're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't say, like, if there was another from a certain point of view for any other property, I'd want Andor, because there's so many weird people in the background of that show that I want to know, like, who's this guy? What's he doing?
You know, I really want the from a certain point of view of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
We have novelizations, but like I really want like Daniel Craig's Stormtrooper like story, and we get to hear Rey saying explicitly, I saw this done by Ben in his mind. I'm gonna give it a shot. And then everybody would be like, oh, that's how... No, not everybody. Everyone's gonna still be like, what?
Well, they had to make a book to explain it. And you're like, no, for you to understand it.
Yeah, we understood it from the movie itself. The books are for you.
Okay, so you can tell me if this is kind of a dick thing to do, but like, what I do now, because I'll often get comments of like, well, you know, the sequel trilogies just don't make any sense. So I'll ask them, oh, what did you have trouble understanding? And then they get really mad. And they're like, no, I got it. It just didn't make any sense. I'm like, if it didn't make sense, that means you didn't understand something. I understood it. What did you have trouble understanding? And they get really mad because their position is that they can't make sense, otherwise they're wrong.
I feel like that's usually let me bring in our first caller.
It's like a cheese dick way of doing it, but I like it.
Oh no, waveforms and things. You're alive.
I'm here.
Yes, you are.
Hello, people. Hello,
Hello.
Choco. Hello, Element. How are
Hello,
y'all doing
Brody.
tonight?
Doing great. You know, still dealing with the strike and still dealing with talking about other things, which is
We
not a
can't
bad
talk
thing.
about the thing. We'll talk about the other things
Now,
from a certain point of view.
I've drawn a hard line on talking about specifics, but like when people ask me, "Hey, how do you like the show?" I'll be like, "I like it." So, like short answers like that, fine. But like we're not.
It's
what
good.
what I consider as promotion is like diving deep into it. You know.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about other things, like the fact that tomorrow I'm gonna be in your neck of the woods wearing my In-N-Out shirt because I'm so excited to be in California and not
Nice.
Nebraska tomorrow.
I'm gonna tell you, even from someone like from Nebraska, man, In-N-Out is just overhyped.
You think so? We haven't discussed this yet. That's a big deal.
So
Well,
here's where I stand on it, because I love me some In-N-Out. It is a great burger, but
Yes.
it is great for the price of a
Okay,
fast
yep.
food burger. Right?
What
So
is
I
the
get
best
people
burger?
going, oh, well, like Five Guys burger, is it better? And you're like, yeah, you paid $16 by the time you got out the door. You know what I mean? Like, sure, it's better.
Yeah.
This was $4. You know?
I'm a snob, so I don't care. Like, my favorite burger is the counter, and that's only because I get to build it myself. And then you know, all I hand over to them is the meat, and I'm like, you get that meat just the temp just right, and then I'm gonna put all of my favorite toppings on it, and I don't care. Just get the meat right, and then give me my burger.
Okay.
No, my favorite burger is actually in Huntington Beach. So I don't know.
That's where I'm gonna be. What is this place called?
It's Duke's. It's Duke's restaurant. It's on the pier. I know there's several Duke's. There's one in Hawaii. There's one here in San Diego. They're all
Okay, I've been to one.
tangentially related, but they are all completely separate menus and all this stuff. So
Really? Okay. I've been to one Duke's and it was the same one and it was in Iowa, of all places. It didn't last long.
Probably not as fresh of like fish and stuff. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was on a lake, not the ocean.
Do we want to grab a burger on Monday?
I think that's what we have to do. I think we
mean,
have
given
to
the
grab
fact
a
that it's
burger.
given the fact that it's a Monday, of course, both of us probably cannot make it a late night. But I figure we can grab a burger and just talk for a while.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's enough things to talk
I know
about.
Taco wants, and Taco, has been a while since you've been a Duke, so you might want to consider this heavily.
Yeah. There's that. There's also 25 Degrees, which is another sort of chain. There was one in Los Angeles that we went to, but it wasn't not the same. But yeah.
Have you guys ever ventured down to Texas and had a Whataburger?
No.
I've had a Whataburger. It was not in Texas.
Okay, and usually when they're not in Texas, they're not very good. At least that's my
Fair.
take. Yeah, and even some of them in Texas are not very good. But I'm from San Antonio, and I finally conceded this year that I think In-N-Out is just a better burger on average, and that took a lot. That hit me deep to the core to just come to terms with everything I've been indoctrinated to believe is wrong.
Well, now the question comes, and this goes for anyone else in the chat, because we often go on food-related tangents on this show. But what is your best burger? Have you been to In-N-Out? And if you have, how do you order your burger? Because that's also extremely important.
Yeah, I mean, I'll clarify my stance on it. When I say overhyped, it's literally like, the tourist attraction for people. And I'm like,
Yeah.
It really is not. It's not the best burger. I really hate their fries. I mean, if you want a good burger that is cheap as hell, you go there. And you're not gonna be disappointed by it for the price. You just a couple bucks for a burger. I usually get a double with animal style, double animal style, but it's not something that man, you should come here and try In-N-Out. It's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I prefer the meat blend of Shake Shack, but again, just like Choco said, I'm paying $12-13 for that burger.
Yeah.
And again, same thing with Shake Shack. Their fries are crinkle cut frozen
good.
section restaurant fries. I think the best fries I've had from a place is probably Five Guys.
Okay.
And we're kind of
Yeah.
we're kind of discounting the fact that you can always go for McDonald's fries. I don't care who you are. Someone comes in with a bag, even with a bag of McDonald's they've already completed, and they're stragglers. You're like, is there any fries in the bag?
we were getting food. We were getting stuff to make food at home. As we're driving, my wife's like, you know what? Can we stop and get some McDonald's fries? I was like, oh yeah, you want fries? That's cool. It's like, so she wanted to get a small fry. I was like, extra large fry, because I'm a Renaissance man. We were gonna eat this with our food at home. We get home.
Yes.
She ate 2/3 of the fries. Anyway, man.
You
I
remember?
feel like there's a thing of women and fries.
Oh, for sure.
Why? Why? Why can't I just have my fries?
Even around
Yeah.
my family, I'm like, I'm getting McDonald's. You guys want fries? My sister, my mom. No. As soon as I walk in the door, can I get some fries?
You just buy them. just buy them.
I don't want fries. I want one fry per second until half of yours are eaten.
I don't want my fries. I want your fries. No, I don't want my fries. I just order them and I'll. Yeah, I learned that pretty early on in marriage, and I'm like, I'm just gonna buy two, and worst case scenario, I'm gonna stuff myself. And to this day, I have not had to stuff myself.
That's smart. I'm gonna buy two for myself.
Yep.
And this one is just in reserve.
Yeah, because we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Kenny says overrated as crap. Five Guys for life. Young says In-N-Out, just a double cheeseburger. Marianne says I just make my own because I don't go out often. This is true. The best burger I've ever had is the one I make. That's why my best burger chain is Counter.
Have you guys ever been to Fuddruckers, or is that just a Midwest thing?
No, we had them in Northern California. I just never went.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. You basically just kind of pick the meat, like bison, elk, whatever. And then you got whatever toppings. They had this like huge vegetable stand counter of like fresh veggies, and so you could kind of do it however you wanted to do it. So I feel like Element, that's kind of more your speed.
I certainly also get down on grilling some burgers. Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, let me amend my statement about the best fries I've had. The best fries I've had come from this small store called Horton's in Forest Hill. Have you been there?
I have not. I've spent a lot of time in Forest Hill, never been there.
It's great.
Fun fact, in Triple X, when you see a Corvette jump off a bridge, that's Forest Hill Bridge.
Huh.
And when my gas meter was on E, I love coasting down that road in neutral. Let's see.
After a night of binge watching Initial D, we would hit up Highway 49 and the roads up there as well. That was also the best.
Let's see. Hold on. Young said best burger was at a restaurant in Las Vegas. Angus beef with melted brie and caramelized onions.
Was it Gordon Ramsay's place? I need to know. I need to try his burger. It's in
Ramsay,
Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Yes.
I mean, caramelized onions is always great. I personally don't like brie. I always go for either Swiss or provolone.
I guess I don't do brie on burgers, or haven't.
Yeah, but the best meat blend that I do is brisket and chuck.
Yeah,
the brisket has to be 80-20. The chuck more like 60-40 if you can get your butcher to do that.
I don't cook a lot of things well, and there's a lot of things I do like really badly in life, but I do make a chicken sandwich that to this day I do believe is the best chicken sandwich I've ever had. And for the most part, everyone has agreed. Now there's one person in the world, lowest score it's ever gotten was a 6 out of 10 from Luke on the pod ones. Now in my defense,
Luke has terrible taste in general. So
now I make a homemade Korean chili garlic sauce for it. You put really good pickles from the farm, because we're in Nebraska. We got those. All sorts of good fresh condiments, green onions, you name it. He was like, yeah, like let's take off all that and put some ketchup on that thing. And I was like, well, that's not my chicken sandwich now.
Oh, okay.
This is not what I do. Well, we'll do it. He's like, 6 out of 10. And I was like, I'm not going to take that one to heart. We're not going to drop the score down. But yeah, that's the lowest one I've gotten today.
The secret.
That makes a lot of sense.
The secret. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I had like this really elaborate salad that I would make for gatherings and stuff like that, but it was balanced a specific way of flavors and textures and stuff like that. And then someone was like, everyone loved it, everyone was raving about it. We had one friend who tried it. It's like, no, I'm gonna put ranch on it, and it was like, oh, I don't like it. Like, of course you don't like it. You didn't have it. It's not
Yeah.
like
this
it was
isn't nothing.
designed to have a sweeter dressing on it to balance things out.
Yeah.
And
The secret to a chicken sandwich is using thigh meat, not a breast. You can make a breast. You can make breast meat juicy, but thigh meat is where it's at. I use thigh meat, and then I top it off with an arugula and baby spinach salad.
Okay.
Using the Japanese dressing, the soy ginger. I make a soy ginger.
thigh meat is just the goal for a happy life in general. I'm just saying.
So you know how like when you go to a Japanese restaurant, you get the miso soup, you get that salad on the side, and it's got that soy ginger dressing. Take take that salad with the soy ginger dressing, put it on top of a buttermilk battered thigh. That is a
You giving
great
me ideas.
chicken sandwich.
You're giving me ideas. See, that's the thing. Like, I feel like if I made my chicken sandwich out in California, there's so many people out there that are just like, yeah, everyone makes this. What's the big deal? But in Nebraska, they're just like, this ain't ketchup. What are y'all doing that right there? That was really dang good. And I can make another one of them for my grandmama and my, yeah.
That's a great Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, that's my competition out here.
But like, if you add some of your Nebraska fresh pickle juice to your buttermilk and stuff, and you got some stuff going on.
Get an Omaha steak and just
Yeah, you gotta get some sour in there.
yeah, throw something on it. I know a guy who makes it. He thinks the chicken sandwich secret is like marinating it in a pickle brine, like Chick-fil-A does. Yet to do it myself, but I've heard that's the thing.
It's very good. Make sure you do it for the correct length of time, because you can go too pickly. I've gone too pickly, and you're like, it's meat pickles. So you gotta be sparing with it.
Yeah.
Just to catch up here with the chat real quick.
Shout out to Chris.
I see Young says that fries they satisfy better than any man. This is accurate.
I feel like that's a challenge.
Listen, I've certainly been satisfied by fries more than any man, but
That's true. That's true.
that's barking up the wrong tree, though.
Shout out to Chris, Star Wars lawyer, being a member of Dyad Squad for 25 months. That's 1 month more than 2 years. Thank you so much. There are more of us. And just so we're on the same page, I feel like, is this it? Nope, that's not it. Hold on. That was the Asian aging thing.
Sorry, I'm looking at the YouTube stream, and there was a delay, and so it was like I couldn't wait.
Just to shout out to the Star Wars lawyer. They are doing a collab with Far Far Away Factory and Bedazzler. For these There Are More of Us shirts, percentage of the proceeds are going towards supporting the strikers. So head on over to etsy.com/farfarawayfactory or farfarawayfactory.com. Go ahead, Choco.
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, no, I was just saying,
Asians don't
something
raise
that
it?
I can relate with, at least in my family. My mom, growing up, thought she loved ketchup on everything. Turns out my grandma's just a terrible cook. So when she had other stuff and was like, oh my god, this is what it's supposed to taste like? Game changer.
Yeah. Also Young complained about fries from McDonald's being $5 fucking bucks. Well, I'll tell you what. There's this little known thing called the McDonald's app, right?
Yes.
And there's this little known thing called deals. And they have $1 large fries almost every day. So whenever you want fries, open up that app and get you your $1 large fries. Of course, it says with a purchase, but you could buy anything.
Yeah.
So get like an apple pie and then get yourself a large fries for $1. Let's see here. Kenny says potato olas from Taco John's are better. I feel like
That's a hot take.
It is. I feel like that's a frozen fry.
I just feel like I'd see a place called Taco John, and I'd be like, "There's no Juan. Is it Juan? I ain't going in there."
I feel like if I also see a place called Taco John's, I'm not being like, "Yo, get me your fries."
Yeah.
That's also true. I was in Virginia once because the Visa data centers out there where we're installing stuff in their data center, and we got Mexican food one night because I like Mexican food. Don't get Mexican food in Virginia. They don't have Mexicans in Virginia.
Yo.
I almost threw up. I swear to you, the salsa was like someone took canned diced tomatoes and poured them in ketchup. Like I swear to you, that's what the salsa was. And, I don't know. It was rough.
The way I see it with Mexican food is that the further away you get from Mexico, like, sure, there could be a Mexican that goes up to, like, Portland and brings their knowledge there, but, like, the further away you are from the native ingredients that make them good, the more likely it is that the ingredients are not fresh, or at the very least sourced by somewhere else.
That's an interesting point. Like, the worst Mexican food I've ever had by far was in New Zealand. So that's on brand. That's on brand.
That's wild. that's the best thing I've ever heard. I will say, in Portland's defense, there's a reason they call Hillsboro Hills Burrito. It's kind of racist, but they do have some decent Mexican food in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Filipino food here trying to use Spanish Mexican chilies, when the best version you're going to get is if they can import some siling labuyo, which is like Filipino chilies, and it's just a whole different flavor profile. It's like, you can't just be like, oh, these are chilies, therefore, it's like, it doesn't translate.
That's true.
I feel like the closer you are to Mexico, you're going to get Mexican native ingredients like the cilantro from there and all kinds of stuff. Catching up with the chat as well. Young says, so Pep is the thigh guy. I am a boob ass clavicle thigh guy.
Yo.
So none of them mutually exclusive. You can have one or the other, or all or all of them.
Brody, where do you stand on this?
On this? All right, so I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest on one thing, okay? Like, when you had mentioned that you do your chicken sandwiches with thighs, I've done that before, and I'm not against it. I do like it. They are good. There's not that, that's good. But I personally go for breast. Here's why. It takes more work. It takes more time and love into it. You got to tenderize it first. You just throw in I know a lot of people when they try to make a chicken sandwich, they'll cut it in half. It's still pretty thick. Throw it on there, and it's just dry. And you get it back. Now, if you tenderize it and it's pretty thin, you cut it up in maybe 2 or 3 of them. Then you throw it on. You have to throw it on long. Shallow fry in olive oil or avocado oil if you're like afraid of some of the smoke. It stays juicy. It's really good. I'm just saying, just try it. So that's how I do it. But
I'm with you, Young. It's like, that's just a long way to say he's a breast guy.
Listen, I'll eat chicken breasts if they're juicy, yes. And I can make some juicy chicken breasts.
Yeah.
You do got a point, though. You do got a point. It's because the effort into making it that way is what's different.
Yeah. Thighs are just like that. Thighs are just juicy.
I just prefer
and ready.
dark meat, though. And meat around the bone is like...
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Now, my question for you guys is, and I'm sorry, this is your show, and I'm derailing it with food left and right, but here's the next one. Where is the best city in the world to get food for you? Right? I don't care about Paris, this and that. For your own life experience, what city has the best food and why?
Los Angeles. And that's because I can walk up the street right now and get food from every single cuisine that there is that to care about around this region.
There's some great food in LA.
I can go to Little Tokyo and cross the Pacific for a little bit. You know, I can get some great Chinese cuisine. I can get I have a favorite restaurant here for Filipino food as well. Always not going to be the same as going to their specific countries, but LA is a mecca for all kinds of cuisine that's just right up the street.
Yeah, it's true. What about you, Choco?
I mean, same answer, different place. where I used to live in San Diego.
No.
Same thing. Like, surrounding me on all sides was a plethora of different Asian restaurants, but like over here is where all the Vietnamese people were, and then like Thai people were just up here, and then Korean, and it was like Japanese, and then right on the outside of that was like, well, just south of that was all Mexican food from different regions, Mexican seafood, all this stuff. And then outside of that was everything else. Plus, there's any chain that you could possibly want. I wasn't really my speed, but again, like, it's the convenience, you know. Where I live now also isn't too bad. Like, Pep got to see literally there's anything I could possibly want within 3 minutes of where I currently live. It's actually kind of absurd.
Oh yeah,
that would be terrible for me.
Last week we got Korean barbecue over where Choco lives, and the first words out of my mouth was like, "All right, how far is this, please?"
It's like, three
right
minutes,
there.
2 minutes.
You can see it. He's making it right now. He knows we're coming.
But yeah, up
That's
my
wild.
street there is a plaza. If I just go up my street, turn right, there's a plaza. You've got Singapore, Lee sandwiches. You've got Kopan ramen, that's Japanese. You've got a Chinese restaurant in there. That whole plaza is Asia. There's a Thai restaurant in there. There's a Vietnamese pho. That whole plaza is just all of Asia. And you can you can take a tour of Asian cuisine in that plaza. It's crazy.
Yeah, there is some great Asian cuisine in LA,
Yeah.
undoubtedly.
Yeah.
And
I will
you got
say,
your taco trucks.
for Vietnamese food specifically, Huntington Beach, where you're going, is on the border of Westminster, and that's like, I think they had the highest population of Vietnamese people like outside of Vietnam. It's pretty crazy. So
Okay.
yeah, you want to get some pho? You check it out.
Yeah.
What is it? It's a cold rice noodle pork vermicelli there that they typically have. Very good sandwiches, excellent. My wife doesn't like them, but she brings me extra when they bring them at work, so it's
They
great.
got some banh mi. That's Vietnamese for sandwich. So catching up with the chat, we totally missed this. Ileana said, slander. They are on the eastern shore as a Virginian. Slander. So apparently there's like a camp of Mexicans on the eastern shore of Virginia that you just missed.
Yeah, they weren't where I was. That's for damn sure.
I mean, I've been to
in
Virginia
Virginia,
Beach.
we could drink in the car, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not the driver, but yeah, we'd all have beers as we're going home. I missed that.
Kenny's favorite burger is still from Big Boys. Half-pound double bacon cheeseburger. I don't know why I said it in that accent, but, you know, Big Boys always makes me say Big Boys.
Sorry, I just started thinking of Fat Boys from Fast and Furious.
Young says, the best place I've ever had pho was in Las Cruces. Nothing has come close.
I don't know what that is.
I believe that is in California, considering the name, or Las Vegas.
I've never
Dim sum
had.
is also good. Have you ever had dim sum?
I have, and the only reason I've even had some of these foods is when all these different dishes. So in Nebraska, we don't have many, believe it or not, many Vietnamese restaurants. I think we have like 2. and hadn't been to them my whole life. But when I toured Europe for a month, my buddy's wife was born in Vietnam and knew a bunch of different dishes. So over that time, I think right before the trip, she was like, I think I'm going to make you guys pho. And I was like, what's that short for? That tells you how much I knew about Vietnamese cuisine. And yeah, it was really good. Really, really good. So I learned a lot about it that time, want more. And so now that you're saying there's a lot out there where I'm going to be in Huntington Beach, I think I'm going to have to slide in and try some when I'm there.
Pretty hot,
Absolutely.
outstanding. That's what it stands for. Also, I'm surprised over in Nebraska, you said your friend met a Vietnamese?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They are on the Eastern Shore.
Got to get that representation. Now, I feel like the best place. I used to always think the East Coast had some of the best food, like Philadelphia, New York. But now I'm sticking with Chicago. They've got their own weird versions of everything, like pizza, for example, which isn't my favorite. They've got an Italian beef, which is really popular now. It shows like The Bear that popularized it. But the Italian food's amazing. All sorts of different, like literally the best. I'm from San Antonio, and Chicago's got the best Mexican food I've ever had. And so there's a very large population of just all sorts of different cultures in Chicago. So it's
The Italian beef is excellent. My dad is from Chicago, and when we were growing up, every now and then he would like call up a place, and they would ship. they would freeze pack everything and then ship it to us, and really good.
Did you guys dip it? Did you lather? Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I do love me some lamb on the gyros. The lamb that they make on gyros is...
Yeah. I'm with it. The only reason I want to go to Greece, food.
The only reason I want Greece is greasy food. I'm just kidding.
Now, we do have a friend from Philly. He called in last week. His name is Malik, and he swears by the food there, but he also has the palate of a toddler. So
he's like, there's a Burger King, and I tell you it's the best. Trust me.
Listen, just the short version of this story is like I told him I had a cheesesteak, and he's like, if it's not from Philly, it's not a Philly cheesesteak. And then we were like, if it doesn't have cheese whiz, it's not a Philly cheesesteak. And he's like, I don't get mine with cheese whiz. And I'm just like,
that what?
You don't, like, you are in Philly, and you yourself don't get a real Philly cheesesteak. It's like you're getting a Philly steak sandwich.
Yeah.
But it ain't no cheesesteak.
Steak sandwich. Just a bunch of meat. Another hot take. I'm not a big fan of Philly cheesesteaks.
I don't like them like normally, but I do have my my version of them, which basically just has a whole bunch of mushrooms in it too.
I love mushrooms. I think I'd be down for that.
Young says I suck at geography. Why? I could probably beat your ass in GeoGuessr. I challenge you to a duel.
Everyone I know that lives in Philly too is not a big Philly cheesesteak fan. Like every single person I know, they're kind of like, yeah, it's fine. It's like touristy, like it's good. Sure, you'll stop every now and again, but I don't know any person in Philly that swears by them. But I also only know like 6 people, and they, in my mind, represent all of Philly because they're the only people I know there. So.
I apologize, Young, because I live in a state where literally every other neighborhood is a loss.
it was a fair assumption, right? Like,
it's not like I was like Las Cruces. That must be in Montana. It could very well be in California or Nevada.
Yeah, down in Southern California, everything here. I feel like it's kind of offensive. Like they just kept all the Spanish names for stuff as they ran them out. So yeah, it's kind of odd.
Yeah, we didn't get any of the names.
Eliana did not have a cheesesteak the entire time when she lived in Philly because it's a hellhole and she hates it. The entire being. With her entire being. Go Birds, though. Oh, Jesus Christ.
That is the most Philly response we've had. Like, I hate this place. It sucks. Go Birds.
That's so passive aggressive.
Like,
Pass aggro.
Have you guys seen that rant Bill Burr had when he went out to go like do his stand-up routine in Philly? And the guy before him, I don't know if it was Kevin Hart or whoever, but got booed off stage. And they were like ready to rip the next guy to shreds. So Bill Burr walks on stage. They start booing him before he even starts. And so he just tears into them. Everything about why he's like, the city is trash, your team's of trash. Like, the Eagles hadn't won a Super Bowl yet, so he's like, you know, you guys are just dog crap, garbage. And then by the end, after 15 minutes of just letting him have it, standing ovation. Philadelphia just loved it, took it in, and gave him a warm embrace. So they've got their own culture going.
Yeah, I feel like the best thing about Philly is how much they hate Philly. You know, no one loves Star Wars more than... No one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Yeah, that's a great point. Star Wars fans are just like Philadelphia citizens.
This is off topic from what we were talking about, but it is for Star Wars. But there's this concept that's been bubbling up, and it just irritates the crap out of me. Can we please stop this narrative that there is a versus between Disney Star Wars and Dave Filoni Star Wars? Dave Filoni Star Wars is Disney Star Wars. Like, can we like move past kind of this whole thing? As soon as the purchase happened 11 years ago, it's 11 years now. We need to start letting certain things go. But as soon as that happened, one of the first things that Kathleen Kennedy, who George Lucas handpicked because they were such good friends for decades and decades, she said, I want to get this guy in live action, and did everything she could to get Dave Filoni to a place where he could do what he's doing now, and gave him the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. Like, there's no one else that is doing as many shows simultaneously as Dave Filoni anywhere in any medium. Promoted him to just beneath her. Yet there's still this weird like narrative that people try to place that there is a conflict between Dave Filoni and the people that believe in him the most and have invested the most in him to get to this point in time. It just bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah, it comes from the same people who don't know what their jobs are. It's like, oh, he's on the creative side, so therefore he is against Kathleen Kennedy and she's like shooting him down. But she's a president, she's a producer, she produces, she enables the creative side.
Which, once again, if you don't like Kathleen Kennedy, that's fine. Just
I don't
like her for the things that she does. Don't do the weird thing where
the stuff you hate is Kathy's fault. The stuff you like is Filoni's credit.
You know,
that's
like
fair.
people saying, "Oh, she ruined Indiana Jones." She produced every Indiana Jones, all of them. So how can you say that? You know what I mean? That stuff.
I'll
is
take the
stupid.
good with the bad.
Yeah. So if you don't like her, cool. Just like have actual reasons, know what her job is, and understand that portion.
Yep.
Yeah. That being said, I'm still not a fan.
And that's fair.
But to be fair, I don't respect most Hollywood execs in today's world. So I lump her into a lot of categories. But that's
I
all
do
right.
blame her for the most recent Indiana Jones, though, because while it was a decent movie, I don't think it should have been made. Personally,
That's true.
but so that's a Kathleen Kennedy call. So I stand by that. You know.
Yeah. And she's been a part of some of the most amazing films we regard in American cinema history. So, like, again, take the good with the bad. But, no, I mean, it is weird, though. You're right. We are seeing a lot of that where people are saying, oh well, when something good happens, I'm gonna chalk it up to Favreau, or especially Filoni, and we're just gonna have
or
this.
Lucasfilm.
Or
And then it's
Lucasfilm.
Disney if you don't like it. But like they were all Lucasfilm.
With a recent show that's occurring, I'm hearing more and more people say, like, yes, this is what's happening. And I actually had someone message me the other day. They're like, I'm confident that this is being done, and projects that are happening now are being done to erase events from the, the sequel trilogy. So all things that, whatever you want to infer or think with that, people are thinking like, oh yeah, Disney's going out of their way, or I guess Filoni is saving us, and they're going to nix the sequels at some point. And I'm like, no. What? Like, people want that so badly for this him versus them thing that I'm like, or we can appreciate that he is going to make the sequel so much richer by adding all of this lore, additional stories, similar to what the Clone Wars did. And it's not going to make the sequels great as standalone movies, but if you watch it chronologically, it'll make it better. So let's just appreciate what's happening.
Yeah. It's kind of like the people who say that this doesn't feel like George Lucas, but if you watch the behind the scenes, you'll see that George Lucas is on set almost every time. And so, like, when they go, oh man, thanks to Dave Filoni, I feel like I want to make a poster of a meme poster of people saying, this doesn't feel like George Lucas, and he's on set, and them saying, thanks Dave Filoni for this, and Kathleen Kennedy is on set. It's like, I mean, they're involved all the time,
Yeah.
And to Choco, to what Choco said, yeah, we can definitely, place blame on what comes out via Kathleen Kennedy, but at the end of the day, the creative stands on the writer of the project, the director, and sometimes if like you have problems with the acting, the actors. But you can't be like, this entire movie is literally at the heels of Kathleen Kennedy. I'm like, she's not even in it.
The weird thing, again, with the Indiana Jones, I didn't hear anyone mad at the director.
He's like, I got out of this free.
No one was mad at director. No one was mad at writer. But it was Kathleen. Well, and Phoebe Waller-Bridges. But anyways, yeah, no, just weird. So I tweeted how I feel, because I love Dave Filoni, and I'm so happy that they've put so much investment into him and given him this canvas that he can give us some of these stories that we absolutely love. Like, I appreciate that.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's also antithetical to when people say Disney Lucasfilm is ruining or disrespecting Legends, when before Disney we was never going to get any Legends in canon whatsoever. After Disney, we have gotten so much Legends into canon or reinterpreted into canon, canonized, that you there's like, I don't understand how you can sit there and say that like they are purposefully disrespecting the old expanded universe.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cal4 in the chat. Hope you feel better.
George Lucas even at one point said he never regarded the EU as canon.
Oh, many times. Yeah.
Yeah. So when people freaked out that it was like officially non-canonized, I'm like, even Lucas wasn't on board with it being canon. So I don't know.
Well, that's because they had their own canon. It's so I will give them like some slack, because they called it S canon. Was it S or T canon?
Most of it was S canon, but there was T canon, N canon, and I mean, in canon was just non-canon or things that no longer fit within their S canon. There was also C canon.
So there's this like misunderstanding that if it is canon, it is canon. But there are different canons. That's why we refer to it as Legends continuity or Legends canon. It's canon to Legends. This following statement is canon to Legends. Theron Shan was not born with Force sensitivity. But that's as far as it goes in terms of canon. George's canon, which is what is new canon in Disney terms, will always have been what George considered canon. But a lot of people saw that they had a separate canon for EU, and they labeled it Legends, and so it's like, oh, they decanonized. Like, no, it was, the Legends is still Legends canon. It's still that canon, but it was never George's canon.
You know, there was one thing that I totally forgot, but we were going to talk about this week, and so I'm also curious to hear what Brody might have to say about this. But if you were in the Star Wars universe, it's a two-part question. Who would you be? Or who do you think you would be? And then who would you actually be? So I'm talking about, like, kind of create your own character, what you would be doing. Like, for me, what I would want to be, if I was in the Star Wars universe, I don't know that odds are not going to be Force sensitive, or at least not enough to find it on my own, you know? I'm trying to think, like, would I honestly support the Rebel Alliance? Would I support this? And I think I would. So my image of myself in Star Wars is I'm a musician that also serves as a recruiter for the rebellion. So I can go out to places. I can run, intelligence as well if we need a clandestine meeting, because I'm traveling to all these different locations with all these different people. But I'm also hanging out because I grew up as an emo post-hardcore kid. I'm also hanging out with, like, the disaffected youth of these stuff going on. So I'm bringing people into the Alliance as well. That's who I would like to be. Who I would actually be is probably someone who just works in an office like Cyril Karn on Coruscant.
That's all of us, yeah. There's so many people. We can't all be Anakin Skywalker.
Exactly. I know. That's how I'm feeling. Anyone in the chat, let us know what you think you would be doing, or in what you would want to be doing.
My short answer is always, I would love to be a Jedi. Everyone would love to be some sort of, like, important figure in the galaxy, but I'd be writing holo novels or designing Sims.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what I would actually be doing, because it's too big. But I think, knowing me, if there's any sort of force, if I have any sort of force powers whatsoever, I don't see me staying Jedi long, which isn't usually a good thing for people in Star Wars, but I feel like I'd be in it. Some other event outside of work would occur, because that's my life, and I'm like, well, this is good. And they're like, well, you've got a non-compete. And I'm like, well, then I'm out. That's literally my life. So I'm like, all right, well, I quit. And then go and I do that thing. And so for that reason, and because I'm a 90s baby, I feel like I'd be in the prequel era. Somehow, some way, I'd be like, you know what? All of you are dumb. This Count Dooku guy, he's going to liberate us. And you know what? He's going to live all this Republic nonsense.
He's saying some good stuff.
And I 100% think I would be a Dooku follower, and I would be going to planets. I would have bought into the propaganda of the Separatists. I would have seen everything that was wrong with the Jedi and everything that was wrong with the Republic, and saying, you know what, we're going to go to these planets. We're going to liberate them from you. And then, yeah, sooner or later, I am hoping I would have seen the red flags there and be like, you know what, I'm going to violate my non-compete here because some stuff's looking wrong. And I probably would just go out and be a hermit in Dagobah. Just hope to not die. So that's probably, and I'd probably end up dead. So that's probably what would happen in Star Wars for me.
Oh yeah, no, I would be dead very early. I'm curious what the average life expectancy is, because people like Yoda are bringing it way up, but like most people, it's a big old meat grinder, you know.
But could you imagine if you were like doing that and like you're like, okay, I'm gonna run away from Dooku, and in running away you meet Hondo Onaka, and then like, all right, I'm this guy with force powers, and I'm with this pirate now, so that's my thing, and I guess that wouldn't be a horrible existence.
I wouldn't.
No, I would love that.
Considering Young would love to be a Hondo type, but she'd just be a nervous droid like 3PO. Why can't you be a nervous droid like 3PO and that's also a Hondo type?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to picture. I'm picturing a droid.
I smell profit. Who's around the corner?
I'm picturing a droid that's kind of doing the Urkel thing, but like has a Stefan mode. There's someone like that in the X-Wing books, where like you flip a switch and it's like, hey.
Yeah.
No. I am so paranoid. I'm so nervous. Someone bumps into their like restraining bolt. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Let's smuggle some loot.
I have to believe if I was able to use the Force, I would end up in like the space NBA or something.
You're like, I don't even know what the Jedi is. I just hoop, bro. Ball is life. Nothing else.
He's on fire. That shot didn't even look like it would have made it in, but it still did somehow.
Have you seen Like Mike 2? Deep cut right now, but have you seen, there was the original Like Mike with Bow Wow, and they had a sequel.
Oh gosh.
They had a sequel?
Yeah.
No,
and
I
I'll
did
never
not know
forget, he's half court, and because he's wearing Jordan shoes, he can play like Jordan. And I'll never forget, as the only scene from the movie I remember, he's at half court, throws the ball behind his back, smirks into the camera, and it swishes. And I'm just like, how good was Michael Jordan actually? Like, hold on now. Like, wait a second. Like, this man, no regard for Michael Jordan's actual talent. They're just like, we're going to make something up. That'd be you.
He was really good at low percentage shots, though.
Yes, he was.
A lot of people compare like LeBron shot accuracy or field goal percentage with Michael's, but like a lot of LeBron's points come from high percentage shots. He's just always at the net
Because he's so strong.
Yeah.
Just runs him over, just trucks him. Okay, I got a question for you then. So you are going to the Star Wars universe. You have to take one NBA athlete from all time. Who are you taking into the Star Wars universe to exist with you, and why? Why that player?
Wait, I mean, Jordan has experience from Space Jam. Does that count?
Absolutely. We're counting it.
Wouldn't everybody in that movie have experience?
Charles Barkley, he was possessed.
That's true. Yeah, me and I bring Muggsy, and he can hang out in my backpack.
I would take LeBron, because if some unfortunate event happened and LeBron's missing from this world and I'm stuck in Star Wars land and it's like not a pretty, like if I'm in a great spot, sure, LeBron can go home, but I'm convinced if LeBron's missing, someone's going to find him. And so if I'm in a bad spot, we'll be shipped back home pretty quick.
Yeah. He's also very versatile, you know?
Yeah, he can do a lot of things. We don't need the Force. He's 6'8",
He ain't gonna fit in the
260.
X-Wing, though.
No. His head pops out where the droid compartment is.
Harrison in chat says, "Why do I feel like Shaq would be the best? It would be like hanging out with a Wookiee, you know? that's what it'd be like.
Barbecue chicken.
Oh, but instead of her, it would be like,
Can you imagine that Millennium
Stop
Falcon?
making fun of me.
Yeah. And Charles is Obi-Wan, and it's just like, nah, listen here, man. That's why you're a damn fool. Now, let me tell you. It just
You are
be
my
that
brother. I love you.
You got Kenny, who's, I can't even see out of this thing. Who's Ernie in A New Hope?
Ponda Baba. Dr.
All right, fair
Everson.
Oh man. So all right, I guess I don't even know. So you said
It's a deep cut, but my favorite NBA voice has always been Mike Bibby.
whoa.
I mean, he's original. son.
Mike Bibby, he just talks like this, and it kind of sounds like Kermit the Frog, and I don't know. It always just made me laugh. You play really good
Yeah.
out there.
Is your hometown Sacktown, or is it more San Diego now?
I don't have a hometown anymore. When I think of home or growing up, I honestly think of Huntington Beach. I guess I would say, but you know, I lived in Sacramento throughout the early 2000s, so basketball was life. Me and my sister, we did NBA 2 ball. Her and her friend actually got all the way to the finals, so we got to hang out like on the court and
Wow.
with the Maloofs at the time and all that stuff. But yeah, no, like back in 02, that was wild. And then something happened
got
in that
cheated.
year, and then I just stopped watching basketball for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, for a long while. I'm so happy the Kings are decent now, but I think my favorite NBA personality is Kawhi Leonard. It took me a lot of years to be able to say that again, since he deserted us like a terrible spouse that he is. San Antonio fans we never even knew why. We never even knew why. Just LA, that's all we knew. But I don't know if you've seen any interviews, but the man is so robotic and it doesn't even seem real. And I've actually met Kawhi once. And I was at this practice because I'm me, and I went to a Spurs game, and Greg
Because of
Pop
me.
and
That's a great reason.
well, like, I was at a Spurs game, and Greg Popovich was like, you know what? Last minute, I'm not going to play any of the starters. And I was really bummed. I was 21. I was like, I spent all this money on tickets, and you're not going to play anybody that we came to see, and we're from Nebraska. So I'm like, this is dumb. So I leave, and my girlfriend at the time is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I'm going to go meet people. I'm not going to waste my time watching this game with our scrubs against the Knicks, who are also terrible, which, come on, it's the Knicks. They're always terrible. So we leave, and I start meeting people, and I meet this one guy, and he's like, we start chopping it up. Turns out, yeah, he works for the Spurs, and he's like, hey, just come out to a practice sometime. So I go out to a practice, and I have this picture that my grandpa and I were collecting autographs for years. And all I wanted my whole life was to meet Tim Duncan. So at some point, Tim walks up, talk to him for a second, and he signs this thing and talk to these other guys, whatever. I put the autograph picture away, and so I'm just sitting there talking to like Ginobili, Patty Mills, Boris Diaw, other guys. They all walk away, start going to their practice. Then at one point, Kawhi walks up to me all kind of like stiff, and he's got his hands like this. And I'm like, what's in his giant mitten of a hand? Well, it was a Sharpie. And I look at him and I'm like, hi, can I help you? And he reaches for my bag, which had like the autographed picture in it. And I'm like, what is happening? And he pulls out the picture and he's like getting ready to sign it. And I'm like, oh, no. That's from like and it had clearly the 07 championship team on it. He's like, you don't want me to sign it? And I'm like, no, man, that's cool. Like, no thanks. But, and he had just won finals MVP like a month before. So I'm just like, 2 months before. So I'm like, no, but like, I can take a picture with you. And I didn't even mean to say it like that. And he's just like, man, I don't do pictures. Don't you know who I am? I'm like, you're Kawhi Leonard. And he's like, ha ha. Walks away. And that was it. He left the team, and everyone's like, we don't even know what's going on. I'm like, dude, it's Kawhi. Kawhi doesn't even know.
You literally negotiated fandom with him. So you want me to sign it? It's like, well, I'll take a picture with you. that's as far as I'll go with you, okay?
And then and I felt so weird and awkward. And I was looked at now my wife. I'm like, why did I say like that? I'm like, honey, he was more weird than you. And then he like left us, and I was like, I turned you down.
I love it because for one thing, I just love weird people in general. You know,
Yeah.
They're normally the most interesting, and just I don't know.
Yeah.
Strange people are the best. But like you see people in interviews they act standoffish, and then people always jump to like, oh, well, they're self-absorbed. And that's why they don't want to share or stuff like that. And you're like, no, he's just a big ass C-3PO. That's what's happening. That's all it is.
And if he wasn't what he is, like athletically gifted, he'd be an accountant, guys. Like, let's not pick on Kawhi. Okay, he doesn't want to do interviews.
My favorite person will always be Allen Iverson.
Ooh.
'Cause that guy's a literal soldier. He played every position and challenged every position and left it all out on the court. Like even Shaq calls him like one of the best, because like Shaq's standing there and he's like, I'm gonna block you, and Iverson just jumps at him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I've never seen somebody like challenge us so much. Like we were all like big centers, and Iverson's a small 6, and he's just like gymnastics
jumping on you.
Everybody.
He had no chill.
He'd go insane today.
He had some of the prettiest crosses.
Oh yeah. If he was in today's game, he would be going off with all the ball movement, lack of defense. He'd be going nuts. A big argument I hear right now is Stephen A. Smith, like apparently Michael Jordan voiced, that Magic Johnson is absolutely better than Steph Curry. And I was thinking, well, yeah, like the man played Game 7. He played center when Kareem went down as a rookie, 45 points, some odd, whatever, and won the championship. And then turns out there's a lot of people that are putting Steph above Magic. I was shocked. You guys seem like hoop heads yourselves, like you know about Magic Johnson and Steph Curry at least. Would you agree that Magic is better, or are you falling into more of the younger people camp that... No.
I mean, yeah, there's
Threes
certainly
win.
a recency bias, and it's a largely different game.
But they play different positions as well.
There's different positions as well. Yeah, I
Well,
typically...
they're both point. They're both point. But one's an active shooting point to win games and does a lot of off-ball stuff. The other guy's ball dominant and, you know, run and gun games. So two very different games, like you said. But Steph is the best shooter ever. Magic could play 1 through 5. So it's kind of...
I put a lot of value in scorers versus shooters. So it all depends on what you value, I guess. It's not like really a statement you can make that is like bar none, you know, full stop.
Yeah.
Don't argue with me.
Yeah.
Because Iverson was a terrible shooter, but he freaking scored the shit out of people. Like he would find ways to break defenses and just get in.
Yeah. What do you think, Choco?
And I mean, in my heart, I do have Magic above Curry. I don't think... I know I've seen people saying he's like the best in the world now, and I don't agree with that. But it's so tough because basketball is, in my opinion, the reason I love it is you can do so much as an individual, yet it's still very much a team sport. And so there's both of those things you have to factor in. It's like the rest of the team and how much of a game changer this one individual person is. Is this person able to put the whole team on their back and run? Or is this like a team that is really good mid-maxed, like, you know, your D&D party is just really balanced, so you have someone that can handle these, which allows them to focus on those things.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I think of...
Yeah.
I think of Curry as being overrated, but I think the team is great. And the
There you
most
go.
undersung people in basketball is every team needs one guy who's just a scruffy little asshole.
Patrick Beverly.
and that's, I think that's one of the most important like things on the team. Of just there's just one guy who's gonna fist fight everyone for the ball. Like he will kill anyone. He's not scoring the stuff, but like he enables everyone to like have a good time.
Was that Doug Christie?
That was Doug Christie for the Kings. That was Draymond Green for, you know, for that one period of time when it was Deladova for.
Oh, he was awesome.
But you know what I mean? Like he's just this little, you know.
He was my hero. I was like, I can be that. I can be him.
Yeah. Anyways, welcome to Star Wars Basketball Talk.
Well, my next question is, what would you call it? What would you call basketball in Star Wars? Inspired by Baldur's Gate, when I had to play a chess match, and they called it Lanceboard, and I was like, oh, interesting.
That's a good question.
Ronto Dunkers. I don't know.
And like, I guess
there.
it also, this changes the question. I guess the answer to it, it determines what planet did basketball originate on.
Tong skitball.
I could absolutely see it being invented by the Mandalorian people.
Yeah.
And what
They're
would
like
it be called?
That
way
would
more.
actually make sense.
What would it be called? Basketball the Ultimate?
Oh man. Just see like Nike sponsoring it. This is the lane. Just.
This is the Jesus. No, it originated on Arvala 7. And the league's motto is, "We have spoken."
What?
I keep it like each of the team names are the different houses, and it's a way for them to compete with each other without it being open warfare. And so like everyone's just throwing their resources into this thing, and it's like the most physical version of it.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why they would like hate the Jedi. They'd come in and just like, they're like, come on, clearly that was the Force. That's like, you know, it's get
Ref,
nasty.
they're cheating.
Yeah, every time, clearly, like you play against the Jedi, you're not allowed to keep your form up too long because then all of a sudden they see some finger action and they're like, no. You shoot it like Sean
Just
Marion, just up and release.
It's like that guy that shoots before his release on TikTok. He just goes like this.
Oh,
It would just go in before they shoot.
Yeah. No.
But to bring this episode to a Star Wars close, why don't we read a story from a certain point of view? Is there anything that you thought everyone should hear, Choco? Story.
I mean, I suppose it's a little bit of a longer story. I think that from a certain point of view story is my favorite in the book. The Alessa Wong one is delightfully dark and just good. Let's see.
Have you read any of the from a certain point of view books, Brody?
No, but I had them when Christian was on my show, and now I keep hearing about them, so I need to read them. I also have to jump because I'm flying to California tomorrow, but I'm going to be having this on the background and listen to all this amazing stuff. Also, to plug you guys on one more thing before I go, the event, Dyad Con. I just logged on to Discord for the first time in like a month today. So I jump into that. It looks like I needed to register sign up with the Hyatt block thing. It's in the chat there. That's all I got to do.
Yes.
And then I'm good.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to do that. And I'm going to get Amanda to do that. And we're going to be there. So everyone,
Awesome.
if you haven't heard, which you're in this community, so you should already know by now. Go to DiadCon. We're gonna have a great time. All right.
Thanks for hopping on and joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
See you in a couple days. Adios, guys. Have a good night.
Bye. All right. So, did you want to do from a certain point of view, or?
Yeah, let's do it. It's a Obi-Wan story, and it is beautiful.
the burden of leadership from a certain point of view. All right. I don't know who else is out there. But
yes, hopefully we kept everyone through the basketball talk. But that was fun.
Yeah, we are back on Star Wars now. If you have us in the background, you're listening in. We're going to be reading From a Certain Point of View by Alex Jennings from the Return of the Jedi FAQ POV. So here we go. I guess we can do every two paragraphs. We'll switch on and off. How's that sound?
Certainly.
All right. Let me see if I can't find a Pretzel Rocks track that's gonna be indicative of the atmosphere. Oh, Sounds of the 80s? Is that gonna be?
Probably not.
Oh.
I was like, it's just gonna be a lot of synth and a lot of.
Ooh, main character? Whatever. It's fine enough. From a Certain Point of View, Alex Jennings. The sodden heat reached Obi-Wan from a strange remove. This wasn't his first trip to Dagobah, but it pained him to think of the last time he had come here to speak to his young pupil. It was nowhere near as hot as Tatooine, but the humidity amplified the temperature by several degrees. An algal mist thickened the air, but the greatest presence was one that could not be seen through conventional sight. The Force was terrifically strong here. It swirled and eddied, breathing with a slow pulse, drifting like ancient sands. It was little wonder Yoda had chosen this planet for his refuge. A lesser Jedi would have found themselves immediately overwhelmed by extra physical pressure. It was a testament to Luke's raw, untrained power that he hadn't been bowled over by it the moment he drew near in his X-Wing.
As far as Obi-Wan had come, as much as he had seen, he still felt at a loss. What a fool he had been to think he could train another impulsive, headstrong Jedi. Ordinarily, learning to communicate with and use the Force was a process of discovery. But for Luke and his father before him, their passion, their sense of justice, and fair play made them vulnerable to the dark side. That was why Obi-Wan had to find a way to communicate effectively with the young man. The stakes were impossibly high, and Obi-Wan sensed that Luke felt adrift after his refusal to complete his training before Yoda. Through the Force, Obi-Wan could see the elderly Jedi Master glowing inside his hut. But Luke was with him, and while the boy was usually the brightest, most intense light around, now Yoda's flame rivaled his own. Obi-Wan's impression of Master Yoda intensified and in an almost musical crescendo, and Obi-Wan felt more than heard the planet appear to gasp as Yoda joined the Force. That music change threw me off.
There's a musical crescendo for sure. Obi-Wan felt no pain when Vader's lightsaber sliced into his flank. He felt a brief flash of heat, heard a hissing sound like gas escaping from a beer bin globe lantern, and for one bright hot instant smelled burning flesh. But the aroma disappeared as quickly as it had come. He realized, dimly, that he had left his robes behind. Again. Without panic, he fell into an ocean of sense and memory, sinking down and down. An expanse of darkness lay below him, ready to catch and warp him. But instead of being caught by it, he sank through into brightness, warmth, and a breaking understanding. Then he heard the voice of his Jedi Master. Your preparations have proven effective, Obi-Wan. It is good indeed to see you again, old friend. Obi-Wan hesitated another moment, unwilling to intrude on such a private moment. Already, the second attempt to reach Luke was spinning out of his control. Not only had Luke just watched the second of his Jedi Masters die before his eyes, but Obi-Wan sensed that Yoda had told Luke the truth about his father.
For so long, Obi-Wan had been sure that Luke should not learn the whole truth of Vader's identity until he had completed his Jedi training. For him to learn the truth so suddenly, so soon before his final testing, could send him into the darkness. The danger was still there, but Obi-Wan sensed an openness, a waiting inside his pupil, even as grief and loneliness washed through him. Now that he had joined the Force, Obi-Wan sometimes found it difficult to anchor his consciousness to a single place in time. Past, present, and future were all equally available to him, at a removal from simple memory. As he approached the hut, an image returned to Obi-Wan that threatened to draw him elsewhere. He heard his own torn and anguished scream as his master Qui-Gon was cut down in his duel against Darth Maul. His first instinct was to brush the memory aside, but something told him the Force was trying to communicate something important. He allowed the memory to fade on his own and resolved to proceed even more carefully than before.
Now he drew near to Luke, heard the tremor in the boy's voice as he said, "I can't do it, R2. I can't go on alone." Before he could speak, Obi-Wan found his next words easily through the will of the Force. "Yoda will always be with you." Luke's head turned instantly. "Obi-Wan."
Obi-Wan approached as Luke ducked beneath his X-Wing and crossed to meet him. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, urgency and worry, even fear, tinging his voice. For a moment, it was as if Anakin stood before him, returned from darkness, from death. "You told me Vader betrayed and murdered my father." Now Obi-Wan thought of his last meeting with Leia, the risk he had taken in telling her even a little about her parents. "Your father was seduced by the dark side of the Force," Obi-Wan said. "He ceased to be Anakin Skywalker and became Darth Vader. When that happened, the good man who was your father was destroyed." "So, what I told you was true," Obi-Wan continued, "from a certain point of view."
Obi-Wan sensed the struggle within Luke's heart. Beneath a layer of calm lay a roiling sea of surging emotion. Darkness and light intertwined. Luke's darkness surged against the light, but his better nature, while quieter, was the more powerful of the two. For now. Of course, this was not the first time Luke had struggled, so... Before, it had been attachment to his friends that threatened to pull him in the wrong direction, even after Obi-Wan warned him. Luke's voice broke. "From a certain point of view?"
The last time he'd spoken to Luke, Obi-Wan's voice had sounded hollow and brittle in his own ghostly ears. He could read in Luke's posture that his decision to leave Dagobah and risk everything to save his friends had already been made. It was maddening how like his father he looked, with his high cheeks and shining blue eyes. During the Clone Wars, Anakin had risked his own life over and over to save his friends. Over the years, Obi-Wan had wondered so many times what would have happened if he had taken Anakin by the shoulders and shaken him, screaming in his face, "Don't destroy yourself to punish the Order for our failures. You're worth so much more than this."
Read up until they're still good in him, and then I'll finish the section out.
When I first knew him, your father was already a great pilot, but I was amazed at how strongly the Force was with him. Another unbidden memory. Anakin's round, childish face, gazing hopefully at him across a wooden table, just before Qui-Gon announced that he and Obi-Wan had not come to Tatooine to free slaves. I took it upon myself to train him as a Jedi. I thought I could instruct him just as well as Yoda. I was wrong. There's still good in him.
It was the last thing Obi-Wan expected to hear. These were the last words Padme had said to him. and to hear them now from her son made Obi-Wan feel as if, for all that he had joined the Force and become one with the infinite, part of him could still feel small and shocked. How to explain to the young man that it mattered little, if at all, whether there were shards of Anakin's true and noble heart buried beneath the rotten, scabrous surface of Darth Vader? He worshipped power and desolation, committed himself to spreading darkness throughout the galaxy, because he believed that what light there was could never triumph. He's more machine now than man, Obi-Wan said, twisted and evil. But he knew Luke wouldn't be convinced. Maybe this was the moment Obi-Wan had been waiting for. Maybe it was time he told Luke the truth, but how much of it? He made his decision.
Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan? Vader's mechanized voice dripped with sarcasm and contempt. I will do what I must, Obi-Wan said, and his lightsaber hummed to life. On this day, he'd felt older than he ever had. Older even than after their duel on Mustafar. Vader surged with vitality, but not the vitality of life. The dark side burned in him like an inferno that cast only shadow. To Obi-Wan, he felt enormous. Then you will die. Was this memory or was this life? Obi-Wan's still adrift in the Force. What would have happened if Vader struck him down?
Instead of statements, a vocabulary of violence punctuated by flourishes of hateful power, Vader's movements became wordless shouts, screams that Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, all the Jedi had failed him. Obi-Wan responded crisply, executing each move with absolute precision. I hate you! How could you do this to me? Stop this, Anakin. Come back to us. It's not too late. How dare you? How dare you believe that? You've no idea what I've done. I know the massacre of the younglings, the crusade against the remaining Jedi. Even if I hadn't known before, I would read it in you now. You left me. You left me. Don't leave me. You left me. Don't leave me. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Anakin's painful, ruined glare through the wicked slash Obi-Wan had cut into his helmet. Vader's doubled voice, so familiar, overlaid with the labored breathing and mechanical distortion from Vader's life support system. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
I can't do it, Ben, Luke said with a shake of his head. You can't escape your destiny, Obi-Wan said. Again, his voice sounded tinny and far off in his own ears. You must face Darth Vader again. I can't kill my own father. Those weren't the words Obi-Wan had expected to hear. He expected, I can't beat him, or he's too powerful. Obi-Wan held Luke's gaze for a moment and then looked away with a sad shake of his head. Then the Empire has already won, he said. You were our only hope.
He felt thick as mud. He was missing something vitally important. Yoda spoke of another, Luke said. Leia. Years ago, after rescuing her and returning her to the Organas, meeting Vader in single combat and unleashing on him an avalanche of power, Obi-Wan had let go of his regret for the past and terror of the future. Yes, darkness swept across the galaxy, and every day the Empire had tightened its oppressive grip, but he'd remembered the joy of life, taking delight in the twins, even as they knew nothing of each other. Even as years passed, Obi-Wan thought of Leia as that same little girl he'd spoken to on the landing pad, but he had followed her progress carefully. Something electrifying had occurred to him when he watched a record of a speech she'd delivered before the Senate. Her rhetorical style was something gentle and sometimes fiery, even swell. Each swell and retreat applied deftly, sometimes in the same sentence. At first, he'd wondered where he had heard it from, until he realized he hadn't heard it at all. He'd felt it in his sparring sessions with Anakin and in his duels with Vader after his former pupil had fallen to the dark side. Leia's voice and bearing were a lightsaber, and she wielded it with implacable mastery. Implacable mastery.
Obi-Wan didn't think. Instead, he emptied his mind and let the Force shine through him. This was the crucial moment, in his last chance to help Luke turn the tide. He wondered what he would say, was still wondering when he heard his own voice. The other he spoke of was your twin sister. Luke's posture stiffened for a moment. A shock ran through him, and Obi-Wan could tell from the attitude of his body that the boy knew the unvarnished truth when he heard it. Luke opened his mouth and shut it with a snap. Confusion knitted his brow. But I have no sister. He pressed his lips into a thin line as he took hold of his emotions, reined them in. He searched Obi-Wan's face, where before the boy had looked at him as if across a great distance. Now they were immediately together, directly engaged. Luke nodded almost imperceptibly. He was ready to hear more.
To protect you both from the Emperor, you were hidden from your father when you were born. The Emperor understood, as I did, that if Anakin were to have any offspring, they would be a threat to him. That is the reason why your sister remains safely anonymous. Before his death, Obi-Wan had feared that, as strong in the Force as they both were, one or both of the twins would simply pluck the knowledge of their relation from thin air, especially if they spent a significant amount of time together. That's what Luke did now. Leia, he said. It wasn't a question. Leia's my sister. Obi-Wan couldn't help but smile. Your insight serves you well. His smile quickly gave way to a frown. Obi-Wan was still missing something. Bury your feelings deep down, Luke. They do you credit, but they could be made to serve the Emperor.
Luke hesitated for a moment before sitting cross-legged beside Obi-Wan, and for some time the two of them communed in incompanionable silence. That's how he defeated your father without a battle. Luke nodded slowly, taking in everything Obi-Wan had told him. How like Anakin he looked then. Luke's father had worn the same hooded expression whenever Obi-Wan or another elder Jedi handed him an unexpected lesson. The similarities between them terrified. No. Obi-Wan stopped short. The similarities between Anakin and Luke should have terrified him, but they didn't. This was the detail Obi-Wan had missed.
Everything he'd said to Luke was true, and Luke favored his father quite a bit, in most ways. But there was something quieter in his temperament, for all that darkness and light still struggled within him. The boy was similarly terrified and enraged by the suffering of others, both strangers and those he held dear. But where Anakin had always felt himself an outsider, set apart from his allies, destined to fail or triumph alone, Luke saw himself not as a hero or a martyr, but as one thread in the tapestry of life. He intuitively understood himself as an expression of the Force, drew his power from it, not in great drafts, but in small, careful sips, taking only as much strength as he needed for the task at hand. There was a great deal of Anakin in him, but he had inherited mainly Anakin's best qualities. Obi-Wan hadn't killed Anakin Skywalker, but neither had Vader. The best of him lived on in Leia and in Luke.
He realized all at once that Luke was watching him carefully that his expression had been entirely open. Luke must have seen his relief, his elation. "What is it, Master?" Luke asked. Obi-Wan shook his head, still grinning. So this was the lesson the Force had sought to teach him. It's so good to see you, Luke. I should have said so sooner. Ben, am I ready for this? Trust in the Force, Luke, Obi-Wan said, and in yourself. And scene.
And that was From a Certain Point of View by Alex Jennings. A very great great story from the originator of the line. I mean, it's full circle, really. We get to the moment where he says, from a certain point of view, where it all just like kind of snowballs from there. From a certain point of view.
This story captures what I love so much about the Revenge of the Sith novelization, is because we go so much into the person's mind and the careful considerations that they're making, right? We get not only what they say and our context, knowing the whole story, but we get the character's context of what they had experienced. And I don't know, I really loved this story. Also, side note, since content is a little weird now, I think it might be cool if we start out each episode reading one of these stories, and then we can discuss it with everyone, because everyone would be up to date, everyone would have heard it, and we can all talk about it. Maybe we can do something like that going forward. But yeah, what was your favorite part of this short story?
My favorite part of this story was learning that Luke's light was stronger but quieter than his darkness. And the difference between him and Anakin, where Anakin would take in swaths of power and Luke would kind of be like piecemeal with it, just what he needed. And it's kind of like, it kind of matches with just the whole philosophy of what a Jedi would be, because they don't need to be powerful. They don't go around showing their power and what they could do, but when they're needed, they're there. They'll help somebody that's in danger. They'll do feats of the Force, like Belzetta Far. He'll save a young girl from falling. And Luke, again, it's just like he's not walking around like some big monolith like Anakin was. He's like, I'm the best, I'm the strongest Jedi there ever was. I should be more. When he talks to Padme, he's often like lauding himself, or at least or beating himself up that he's not more than he is. And Luke is just content with having the strength to protect his loved ones. That was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I love about Anakin is he wants to put the whole galaxy on his back, and he's the one who succeeds or fails. But like Luke understanding that he's just a piece in that tapestry, and this is the whole Rebel Alliance, and it's him and his friends, and everyone has a part to play. And that being the difference is one of the differences was a huge revelation. But also Obi-Wan looking through the Force and saying that Luke is always the brightest thing he sees around. That just goes to show you how much his connection is so wildly strong, yet his energy was so quiet and reserved, especially in Return of the Jedi. And then one thing that I absolutely floored me, I absolutely loved, is talking about Leia using her voice, her mouth, like Vader uses a lightsaber, and how it has its offensive capabilities and defensive capabilities and feints and all this stuff. That's so cool. That is such a cool connection, that the flow of a battle is how she debates, and what makes her such a fantastic person to be a leader, be in charge, or to I love that.
In the same sense that they painted their battle as a debate. It's like, I'll kill you, I hate you, you left me, and like each strike back is like, no, we were brothers, I loved you, and we can get you through this, we can, it's like Obi-Wan's trying to compel him back, and like trying to like reason with him with his strikes. And we often talk about what's the story that the fight is telling with each stroke of the lightsaber. And this
so
is
much more important than the choreography.
Yeah, and this is literally like on paper, like this is how a fight goes. It's like, no, this isn't like I'm more powerful, therefore I win. It's like literally there's a story behind each slash and stroke, and it's awesome to see it like on paper. It's cool.
Yeah. Also, when Obi-Wan thinks, I mean, two things, because the question is always like, so when were you gonna tell him that he was fighting his dad? You know what I mean, like, this seems like a dick move, but Obi-Wan's like, this is a delicate moment. We were gonna tell him when he finished his training, but he's worried that he's going to, react. He doesn't know how he's going to react, and he's trying to hedge his bets, which, knowing Luke is not the right thing to do, but knowing Anakin, I get it. You know what I mean? You have to control what you say to Anakin, because he might fly off the handle and run into battle or do something crazy.
Yeah.
And but what he said made them vulnerable to the dark side. Specifically, he said that he said that where was it? He said their passion, their sense of justice and fair play is what made them vulnerable to the dark side. I thought that was interesting, because something can happen and it's not fair,
Yeah, I think in general, what we have to realize is that a lot of what makes us who we are makes us vulnerable to the dark side, and life is about navigating your way around said vulnerabilities. But that seems to be the end of this episode of Dyad in the Force. I hope that if you guys are lurking and just having this in the background, that you guys listen to that story. If you were not listening and you're tuning in right now, we just read From a Certain Point of View from the book From a Certain Point of View by Alex Jennings, Return of the Jedi. And I do want to say one last thing before we try to wrap things up, is that there was some confusion about who the other was referring to, because there's another story here that doesn't muddy the waters, but rather is a little bit cheeky about in their usage of 30 years from now, backwards or forwards. It is referring to Leia still, but it still tracks, because through Leia did the be with me technique happen with Rey. So ultimately she was the other. But any final words, Choco?
No, that is it. Thanks for anyone that joined us, for you stuck with us through Basketball Talk. Who I want to get burgers with all of y'all. Maybe burgers could be the next ramen drop.
Yeah.
Maybe we collect funds to get some great meat from a butcher and make some sick ass burgers. I don't know, but yeah. Thank you everyone that stuck by, everyone who continues to watch. We appreciate you.
All right, well, that has been Dyad in the Force 138. Next week, we will... Young! Thank you for letting us know you are here. You're the best. But next week, we will read another story from this book. There's a lot to go. Let's say we be bold and read Fortuna Favors It. So,
fair enough. Let's do it.
Next week we've got a Bib Fortuna story to read with y'all, and we'll most likely start that at the beginning, so that as time goes on, people need to file out. Y'all won't miss it. You'll hear the story first, and you can join in on the conversation. But yeah, this is the month of FACPOV, Return of the Jedi, and we're hoping to, let's see here, we have one more Saturday left. No, 3 more Saturdays left.
I was like, it's the night, homie.
No, I was thinking in bi-weekly terms. But we have 3 more Saturdays left. That means we can read 3 more stories with everyone. So, if you have access to us in the neutral, DM us. Let us know if there's any certain stories you want us to read with y'all on Dyad. But yeah, next week is another story. But that is it. On to the next one.
for Light and for Life.
We are all the Dyad.
And In-N-Out is great for the price. It's a little overrated. May the force be with you always.